Listen to me. If there was a wise man who would ever think of this, they would say in order to be superior to the man, you've got to be the man. For I am the man himself.
How you guys all doing on this Sunday evening? This is the Club of the Man 1993, and as promised, I am here live to talk about, well, this is supposed to be a SmackDown review, but I feel like it's going to be some SmackDown, more about the news about the next batch of releases from WWE that we got this past Friday as well. I feel like we want to probably spend a little more time talking about the releases than SmackDown itself, which is another good reason why I ended up doing SmackDown's show live this week instead of Raw's. I didn't do Raw's live because that was when we were having the bad storms in my area and there was some issues with the power and whatnot, so I didn't want to risk having the stream be affected, so I thought maybe I'll wait until things clear up more before I do another live. So that's why I did SmackDown instead. But with the release, I feel like this makes it more worthy of doing it live. So so I will of course be talking about SmackDown. We'll go through pretty quickly because overall I thought the show was fine. Like, I didn't think it was bad, but it wasn't really great either. It was just like a standard solid show that just kept things simple and things moving forward. I did have a problem. Well, I actually have a problem. I have a nitpick about how they booked the US title match on this show. I thought it was a little bit strange, if I'm being honest, but it might just be maybe also overthinking. Everything else was satisfying, I would say. But I definitely want to talk a little bit more about those releases. But I also, again, I'm not wearing my SmackDown shirt. I'm trying to, get this effectively done, but also I don't want to spend too much time down here because this is the first night that my wife and I are going to be attempting to have our son sleep in his own room and not in his bassinet. So definitely, as a first-time father, this is definitely a night that's going to be a little challenging for me, but just hopefully it all goes well, and he does. We all get through the night well. So yeah, I'm gonna roll in. We'll first check the live chat really quick, and then we're gonna talk about SmackDown really quick, and then we're gonna just get right into the releases. Because before I get to the releases, I'll just give a quick preview of my feelings about them. At this point, it's a tough business. The landscape, of course, has changed in terms of how long we can probably be committed to so many people before saying, hey, we don't have a spot for you right now, we're going to let you go. But I feel like the whole idea of the door's always open for you to come back is there. It's just another avenue that some of these talents may have had to do to kind of prove themselves, to want WWE to bring them back, to put them on the card. It's a competitive industry at this point with how many different promotions there are. But I will be honest and say some of these names definitely hurt, in my opinion. Just putting that out there. But yeah, so we will talk about those releases when we do get to it. Let's check the live chat. I do see we have two of my favorite subscribers in the live chat. We've got Tyler saying hi. Don't put the belt on Jade. Don't Ryback her. I don't think they should put the belt on Jade yet, if I'm being honest. I do think, well, they're going to have a number one contenders match next Friday. I do feel like it's going to be Tiffany and Nia again one more time. Again, I'm not ready. I'm not ready personally for Jade to have the belt put on her yet. I think she has to get past the feud with Naomi and most likely Bianca before she gets the belt. I feel like it's going to be another year until they put the women's championship on Jade. If I'm being honest, I'd rather have Charlotte be champion now. Me personally, still Tiffany. I think they made the right call putting her over at WrestleMania. Even though the match was good, wasn't as good as I was hoping it would be, but it was still good and got the job done. But and we got Robbie also saying, "Hey Mike, glad I'm able to catch you live tonight." So I have to ask, what exactly, according to WWE, warrants a disqualification as compared to a no contest? That's a good question, because disqualifications are definitely, very easy spot, happen often. No contests, like a no contest, I feel like, if it's like even though it's technically could be a double DQ or a double count out, but yeah, that's really like the technical term they want to use. What really is the difference? I never really thought of it that way. Of course, it's like whenever they try to cover up the DQ finish in Seth Rollins and Bray Wyatt at Hell in a Cell, but they still called it a match stoppage. That's bogus right there. I'd still say, no contest if it's like maybe like a double count out or something, or like, I can't say double disqualification or anything like that. But yeah, because sometimes the booking, you're right, the booking is inconsistent at times with how wrestling companies do label some of those finishes for sure. Tyler says Tiffany is not ready for that spot. Somewhat agree still. I mean, the win against Charlotte kind of helped, and I feel like they're taking like a simpler approach to her character with the face sense. But I do somewhat agree that yes, I don't think she's at the highest she'll ever be yet, but so I'm 50-50 about that one. And Naomi is a jobber. I do hope, again, this isn't just her just eating pins to Jade for sure. I still think that Naomi should have won the match at WrestleMania. I think she should be the one to take the belt off Tiffany, if I'm being honest. But yeah, good thoughts put out there, and good question for sure by Robbie as well. Like I said, I'm gonna roll through. I'm going to. Oh wait, Robbie has one more thing to say. Based on your botch during the WrestleMania 41 live introductions, remember Ralphie, Randy's gotta go. Ah, gosh, the Christmas Story references. Oh, my goodness. It's funny also. I used to hate it because obviously, Ralph is my middle name. And I would hate it when people would call me Ralphie growing up. But now, of course, since we named my son after me because I wanted to keep the thing going, my wife was like, let's call him Ralphie because that's the only other way to differentiate all you other Michaels out there. And funny enough, I never thought I would have given into that, since I hated when people call me Ralphie, because I thought they were making fun of my name. Like they would call me that after they found what my middle name was. They were just like, Ralphie? Like I don't know. But also as well. And oh yeah, thank you. It was my wife's birthday yesterday too. Other than the fact that it was very rainy, it was nice. We ended up doing more today because of it being nicer weather here. We went in and got some flowers, as we're going to be working on both of us. Well, she's off all week. I'm off Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of this week. And we're going to start because we have rocks in our flower beds that were there when we moved there. And we've been saying we wanted to take out the rocks and replace them with mulch and plant flower beds. We were, of course, going to do that last year. Because the summer before we couldn't do it because we were too busy with the wedding and whatnot. We were going to do it last year, but then Ashley got pregnant, so we're just like, we're going to put it off another year. So goal is to do the front yard this year, backyard next year. So we will definitely see. Let me see here. Randy is just a boring face. Again, I'm always the one to say that I prefer Randy Orton as a heel. But right now, I'm cool with what he's doing as a face. It's not like 2017. 2017 Randy Orton as a face was awful. Like, you can tell when Randy is into it and when he's not. When he's not into it either. So I think that, yes, I do agree that Randy's a better heel. But right now, I'm fine with what he's doing as a face. I will leave Robbie's comment for when I get back to the live chat, but I am going to get started. As I said, I do want to do the SmackDown portion really quick and then spend more time talking about the releases. So SmackDown this week took place in Des Moines, Iowa. And we had a few advertisements. And then we opened up with Damian Priest and LA Knight having a promo and it basically just led to them having a face-on-face match. Okay, that's fine with me. So, they have the match. And then the match ends in disqualification, or whatever it was, because Sikoa got involved. And he caused the DQ, and Jacob Fatu does as well. Later in the show, Nick Aldis originally makes a triple threat for WrestleMania. I mean, for Backlash. We're past WrestleMania. For Backlash. With Jacob Fatu, LA Knight, and Damian Priest. And then Solo's like, we actually disqualified LA Knight, so it should be Drew McIntyre getting that shot. And Nick's like, oh yeah, you're right. We'll make it a fatal 4-way and add Drew in there. This was confusing because I get last week them getting involved. Even though that's typical heel fashion, number one contenders match, somebody gets involved, makes it a multi-man match. I get it. But this week, there was no official number one contender. This was just a random face-on-face match. Why did Solo and Jacob stick their nose into it then? And cause a DQ? Like, to me, realistically, what I would have done personally is because they interrupted the match last week. Have them announce that it's going to be Drew McIntyre and LA Knight in a triple threat with Jacob Fatu. And then later, Damian Priest once says, I want to get my hands on Drew McIntyre. Maybe say, okay, we'll give you a match. If you win, you get in the match. Like, this felt like that. Like, they should have inserted Drew and LA Knight for sure. But then had Damian Priest get his way in as well, too, another way. I don't know. It was a little jumbled up the way I thought that was booked. So that was strange. But on paper, because I think I did put that on my Backlash card predictions, which has 500 views on it so far. Make sure to give it some love if you haven't done so yet. That Fatal 4-Way, that is going to be a show-stealing match. I'm looking forward to that match. The card for Backlash is looking pretty good for next Saturday. I will do, of course, my preview predictions this week as well for that. I do have to set the graphics for it, though. But want to make sure everything's set after Raw this week. But yeah, so that was confusing in a way that was booked. We then have Fraxiom beat Pretty Deadly in a match, their second match as an official tag team on the main roster. Match was good. There were a couple botch 3 counts, though, in this match, if anybody didn't notice that. So I don't know why, but yeah, it was a couple random little botches, but Fraxiom do win as they should. They're propelling up to the tag team pretty quickly here. And quite frankly, honestly, these are also 2 guys that I do firmly believe when they go single stars, they're going to be awesome. Again, Axiom, I think, is great. I liked him as A-Kid in NXT UK. Nathan Frazier, I became a fan of his immediately the moment I heard that he had been trained by Seth Rollins. And he impressed me in his first match. When he came in as Ben Carter in NXT UK. And he's awesome. I do want to see him and Seth go toe-to-toe someday. But as a tag team, they're going to be fun. But whenever they do split, they're going to be even better. So we got that in there as well. B-Fab and Nick and Michin are talking about how they want a shot at the women's tag titles whenever Liv and Raquel get back, because Liv's taking a few weeks off to go film Bad Lieutenant Tokyo. which congratulations to her again, when I said in my Raw review. And then also, the Secret Hervis shows up, all in black, including Chelsea Green, grieving over the loss of her U.S. title last week. He then says, she says she wants a recount from last week, obviously, because it's the political gimmick, which is awesome. But basically, she will get her rematch at some point. But she is going to make a match with Zelina Vega and Piper Niven later on, which Zelina Vega, of course, did win. I do think they're going to give that belt right back to Chelsea Green. I mean, again, I'm happy for Zelina, don't get me wrong. This feud, though, has been booked very weird, though, if I'm being honest. Like, Zelina's lost, like, once or twice to Piper Niven. Then she had that weird count-out finish against Chelsea in that one non-title match. And then she won the title. And again, the booking, I mean, again, like I said, I do believe Zelina needs to be a champion. Mid-card and world champion for women. But I still feel like the booking with her has just been weird. Or is it maybe just me? But I do think, because I feel like Chelsea was even, like, still, like, digging her teeth more into the gimmick, I feel like that they are going to give the belt back to Chelsea when they have the rematch. My personal opinion, I think they should. And again, Zelina Vega needs a brand new theme song, because that theme song sounds almost exactly like the SmackDown theme song. Just saying. But that all happened. Nia Jax basically came back and said that that she was home for a while getting refocused, and now she's back to take her title back. Tiffany Stratton comes out and basically says, I'm not the same Tiffany as I was before. I beat you once before, I can beat you again. I also beat Charlotte since you've been gone. So she's more than willing to beat her again if they want to lock up. But then Naomi came out after that and said it's funny to see these two fighting, considering she was trying to get the title from Nia for months, and it was Tiffy who kept making sure Nia kept it. She made Naomi's life a living hell, and now she says she's changed. Nope, she's the one who's changed. She's no longer the sweet, good girl anymore. She took matters into her own hands, took out Jade Cargill, and took her tag title. Jade may have ruined everything she has worked for, but she's not done going for gold. She'll push everyone under a car if she has to. Jade comes out, they start brawling. That's set up for a tag match later on in the show. It also set up for a number one contenders match between Nia and Jade for next week, which I said I think Nia's going to win that. I don't think they're going to have a match at Backlash now. I feel like if they would have had a match at Backlash, they would be announcing that the winner they take on Tiffany Stratton at Backlash for the women's title. Either way, though, if it's one of those two, Tiffany's retaining. Again, like I said before, I agree with Tyler. Don't put the belt yet on Jade. I still think, again, they should have had Naomi win at Mania and put the belt on Naomi, because I still think they weren't expecting anything as good as what we were getting right now with Naomi and this new Proceed with Caution gimmick. But yeah, that was the main event, actually, the tag match. It was fine. It was two teams that, like, teammates didn't really get along with each other. But the faces won. Jade won by hitting Nia with a nice looking power bomb that showed off her power really well. Afterwards, Tiffany and Jade kind of had like a little tug of war. Nia never came back, but Naomi took them both down. She held up the title, but I guess Naomi's not getting the title shot yet, but she's got to get a win, because again, her losing to Jade, I agree with Tyler. Like, that's just going to feel like, oh, same old, same old. She's still just the same bland, heel, just eating pins and whatnot. I don't want that to happen for sure. So yeah, that happened there. All that jazz. My favorite part of the show, I would say, definitely has to be the stuff with Aleister Black and The Miz. First off, before the match, they had a backstage with Carmelo Hayes and The Miz, which, if I mentioned it last week, Carmelo Hayes, since winning the Honor Diamond Royal Battle Royale, Miz gave him this, like, necklace that has, like, a big head of Andre on it, and he calls it Dre. So they're backstage, and The Miz claims that Aleister didn't knock him out last week. It woke him up. And he's going to remind everyone who he is, and there's a reason he's lasted all this time in the company, and Aleister only lasted 5 years, which He actually paused during that line because he even like showed that he kind of has the remorse saying that line, with it being a night that they released a bunch of superstars. Which, just an early thought I also want to say about the releases: why is every time that he does releases, they do it literally like during a show? I don't get why they announce them during the show. Why not announce it like before the show? Because if you're announcing it during the show, kind of takes away from it and distracts everyone else, and kind of ruins your mood for the show. Well, depending on how you feel about the releases, I guess. But anyways, they had the match. They definitely gave Miz more offense than I thought he was going to get. I thought Aleister was going to absolutely squash him. But I kind of like that they did give Miz a little more offense to, one, show that we should still have faith in the Miz. And two, I feel like with the Miz kind of pulling out his best stuff, it made Aleister do some really sick-looking counters and, make him look, like, unique. He, of course, would eventually win, hitting the Black Mass. And, yes, I do believe Triple H will book Aleister Black as the main eventer he should have been the first time around on the main roster. So, again, I look forward to definitely seeing where that goes for sure with Aleister Black as he gets the win there. Afterwards, there's a tease match, a match tease afterwards with him and Carmelo Hayes. We'll see how that goes. I do think that'd be a great match on paper, but is it the right time, though, to do Aleister Black and Carmelo Hayes? Because I feel like this tag team with Miz is to finally get Carmelo Hayes, like, really going into the main, like starting to propel him and give him a bigger push. I do feel like that the eventual game plan, though, is for him with the position he's now, is to turn him face again, I feel like. Him being cocky, and losing, I feel like he's someone who's getting over in the loss, but I feel like, this is eventually for us to, want to see him get the push he deserves, and turn face, in my opinion. We also had a segment with Santos Escobar talking to Rey Fenix about how they could, rule together, but also Rey embarrassed Lucha Libre by losing the El Grande Americano. That led to them getting a match later on in the show, which I thought was good. But again, it's hard right now where Santos Escobar is being booked like a low card guy. But you see, like the trash talking you heard him in this match and the performance itself. I still believe Santos Escobar can be a big star. But again, I feel like that they've dropped the ball with him at the same time, though. But this match with him and Rey Fenix, like, with how good it was, it kind of reminded me of that if you do find the right alley for him, Santos could be a good name in WWE. Rey Fenix does win. There was a backstage segment with Andrade again, teasing Legado del Fantasma, I guess, the split or something. As Andrade is trying to get into the heads of Andrade and, into the heads of Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo. I guess. But, we'll see where that goes. It might have something to do, of course, with, with AAA and NXT merging together. But, we'll see where that goes. Again, I'm just interested to see, of course, where it goes. The last thing to talk about from SmackDown is Randy Orton's promo. He talks about him and Cena's history. And it took everyone some 20 years to see the kind of man that John is. But Randy knew from day one that Cena was arrogant and selfish. He's an entitled brat that gets whatever he wants. He's the ultimate shiny new toy to be played with by an ultimate puppet master. And he does put him over, saying John is smart, took advantage of the PG era. You're willing and quite frankly eager to be a real life walking, talking cartoon character, while he did everything to be true to who he really is. Cena didn't care about anyone except for his bottom line. It has brought him all the fame and fortune. And he had a brand new t-shirt, new colors every month, and all kinds of merchandise that kids would go grab. But he just wants to make sure everyone loves him more than they already do. But Cena, of course, dissed on the kids last week, saying he never had a family of his own because he was busy raising the fans' kids. And the only thing he raised was the price of his merch, which the actual parents have to work double just to afford anymore. So Cena's been selling his soul for 20 years now. He'll give John that, he always showed hustle, but what happened to the loyalty and the respect? Because Cena said he's going to erase the Orton name and everything his family did in this industry. Randy said it will have to be over his dead body. And he claims the last real Randy claims that Cena claims to be the last real champion, but he's just the latest legend for Orton to put down. He calls himself the Legend Killer once again. He'll punch Cena's head so hard that his Lego-shaped head will fly right off his shoulders and through the gateway arch, but only after that will he'll drop him with the 3 most destructive letters in sports entertainment. RKO. And that was basically SmackDown. If I could grade it, I would give it a B+. B-. I gave it. Like I said, it got the job done. Was it anything outstanding? No, but it wasn't horrible either. So I thought it was solid, and I gave it a B-. I kind of breezed through that. That's my thoughts on SmackDown. Let me do my thoughts on the releases, and then we'll go to the live chat before we wrap up the stream. And then following the stream, I am going to upload the next review in my W24 review series, which was the one on Royal Rumble 2022. Not going to lie, I wasn't a big fan of that pay-per-view, and the documentary itself made me think no different. So it's kind of like a mad review as well, but I did it to keep the series going. So that will, of course, be listed there as well. But that will be uploaded though after I do the stream. Anyways, but let's continue on into the releases. So WWE announced some releases on Friday, which again, to kind of give like an early the early thing I mentioned was the fact that why are they now doing them during the show, announcing them online? I don't get that. I don't understand that whatsoever at all. But as I said before, at this point, again, it's a tough business. At this point, WWE, Triple H is still like trying to build the strong roster. He's trying to save some talents that were damaged from when Vince was around. Some, of course, that even got bit again whenever Vince briefly came back in 2023. But also, and it's more so a thing where it's like, again, the wrestling business is a huge oyster. There's so many places you can go and get opportunities. Sometimes, like, this place just isn't the one right now. But there's this new vibe going around where, like, the door is open for you to come back, but you gotta prove it. And that's where it kind of is for most of these talents that were released. A lot of women's wrestlers were cut. I won't lie though, like most of the past few matches have been ones I'm like, yeah, I expected that. Yeah, I get it. I do get some of the ones on this list, but there are a few that kind of hurt. There is one of them, though, I'm going to say right now. There is one person I'm going to say, if WWE calls you again, make sure they're going to use you to your fullest potential. I'm sure you can tell already who I'm talking about, and I'll leave that one for last. But, to kind of go through this list, I'll go through the ones that I don't know as much about, which is mostly the NXT ones. The only one that I can see that I'm really not super duper familiar with is Dani Palmer. I don't know who she is. I forgot which group she was a part of, but she was like the last of the ones released that was mentioned. Also on this list, let me see here. Riley Osborne. Wasn't he somewhat involved with Chase U? I thought he was briefly involved with that, and when Ridge Holland turned on Chase U, which that's another one I'm surprised didn't get released as Ridge Holland, because based off of somebody else on this list, which as of now, out of everybody on this list, there's only one of them that's been revealed so far that their contract expired. That the other rest of the ones, as of now, I'm going to believe that were actually cut and do have the 90 or 30-day no-compete clause. But yeah, Rich, because there's a lot of stars that are going back to NXT, and then their contract doesn't get renewed when it expires. So that I've been curious that ever since Dijak. That happened to Dijak last year, and when he told his story about what led to his eventual release and whatnot. But yeah, just random stuff. Yeah, Riley Osborne, don't know much about him. Sorry. Who else on this list I don't know much about? Eddie Thorpe. That one surprised me because didn't he just... I mean, I don't know much about him, but didn't he just turn heel and just have a feud with Trick Williams? You would have thought if they just like gave him like a character change, they would have like looked more into it and tried a little bit longer with him or something like that. That one surprised me. I would say, indeed, what was a surprise. So that one was a surprise, but I don't know much about him, really. Javier Bernal. All I know about him is that he was married. Didn't him and Tatum Paxley get married? That's the only reason why I know who he is. I know nothing about him other than that. More NXT people that I don't know too much about. Oro Mensah, that was part of Noam Dar's group, Metaphor. I feel like if Noam Dar didn't have the NXT Heritage Cup right now, I feel like he would have been released. Because, like, if they're really going to give these people so many opportunities, Noam Dar has been around since the 205 Live era. And I really don't see him being more than just an NXT guy, if I'm being honest. Like, if they gave up on Trent Seven and released him, and like him, Mark Andrews, and Flash Morgan Webster, and all those UK guys that they released whenever NXT UK stopped being a thing, I would have thought Noam Dar would have been gone too. Because they released Oro Mensah, who was also part of his group, and which I haven't watched NXT, so I don't know if they even still are a thing or not. And Jakara Jackson. That one surprised me when they released Jakara Jackson, because they were giving her and Lash Legend some TV time on the main roster. Remember, weren't they in that Fatal 4-Way match for the women's tag titles at Crown Jewel last year? So yeah, I'm definitely surprised they released her. So that shocked me. Yeah, I think that's all the other ones that like I not as familiar with. Just to continue on the as far as like star power whatnot. They also released Gallus, the stable of Gallus, Joe Coffey, Mark Coffey, and Wolfgang. I'm surprised they were still here, because when was the last time they've been involved in anything with NXT? Because I haven't seen their name mentioned in ages. I forgot they even still worked with the company until that happened. I liked them when NXT UK was around, but I feel like it was a thing where at one point they were kind of considered like the UK's undisputed era. They were the heel faction, the main heel faction when NXT UK started. And then Gunther came in and Imperium took over that spot, basically. Although Gallus had a run with the UK tag titles and Imperium didn't. Which, that still is a little head scratching to me. And I'm also head scratched that Imperium never won the tag titles on the main roster. Probably would have if Vince didn't come back for a little bit, but yeah, I figured their days were numbered, unfortunately. And like I said, I feel like it was only a matter of time for them once Imperium kind of got in their way in the UK. So that one doesn't surprise me for that one with Gallus. Gigi Dolin. So Gigi Dolin, Priscilla Kelly, I know has always had some good buzz. I know a lot of people have mentioned that she should have gone to AEW, and I think she almost did go to AEW. But she hasn't done much really either the past couple years. I think personally, her and JC Jane both peaked when Mandy Rose got released. I feel like if Mandy Rose didn't get released, they were going up to Mandy was about to go back up to the main roster. I think they were going up with her. I think the release of Mandy Rose hurt both their careers. Well, JC Jane is in what? Fatal Influence now? It's her Fallon Henley and Jasmine Nix, I think it was, which I thought I saw her name on this list originally, Jasmine Nix. I don't know anything about her either. But yeah, I feel like both JC and Gigi, I don't think they were going to be anything more than NXT talents at this point. So I'm kind of not surprised that one either, but that's one where it's like they were at one point so close to being on the main roster. And then, again, Mandy getting fired, like, when she did, because of her explicit content stuff she was, like, pushing the boundaries with. That kind of was the end of it for them. Anyone else before I get to the more serious chit-chatters? I think that's it for those. So, the ones I have a little bit more to say. Shotzi Blackheart. As of now, Shotzi Blackheart's the only one on this list where they said that she, her contract had expired. She's the only one as of now. The rest of them, as of now, I'm assuming were released and still under contract. Shotzi's, hers expired. Shotzi Blackheart went back to NXT after she came back from her knee injury. And like I said, anyone who's going back to NXT now, like her, Cedric Alexander, that's why I had a feeling about Ridge Holland. Heck, Ashante the Adonis still has a job, apparently. I'm surprised he didn't get cut yet. I'm surprised Ashante didn't get cut. I'm surprised Apollo Crews didn't get cut. Or Ridge Holland. And I'm also surprised Shinsuke Nakamura didn't get released. I really thought after how, like, bland his U.S. title run was, and when he dropped it back to LA Knight before Mania, I thought that was it for Shinsuke. It could still be. Maybe his contract hasn't run out yet, and they're waiting for his contract to run out. But Shotzi Blackheart, yeah. Like, that whole thing with these NXT, people going back to NXT and then getting released when their contract expires, that's got me concerning. Because Shotzi Blackheart, at one point, was someone that Triple H was really pushing as a character gimmick. Like, when she first came in, I remember she eliminated Shayna Baszler from a Battle Royale. And this was right after, I think Shayna had dropped the NXT Women's title to Rhea Ripley. She eliminated Shayna Baszler in that Battle Royale. She was an immediate surprise entrant in the main roster's Women's Royal Rumble. And she basically was like a host, like, I don't know if they ever would have made her like a world champion, but she was definitely a character gimmick that I think may have fallen under like how Triple H felt about Elias. Because there was an interview where Triple H mentioned there's some people who were in NXT that he thought they were meant for the main roster and not for NXT. I know he thought Elias was one of them. I'm wondering if he thought Shotzi was the same thing. But then I think it's because she also was thrown into a tag team with Ember Moon when Ember Moon went back to NXT to repackage before she got released. And they called her up randomly with Tegan Nox. And yeah, it basically was downhill after that for her. They turned her heel. They turned her back to being a face whenever Triple H took over, and they brought back the Tank. But yeah, it just felt like the writing on the wall was for her was there. She's someone I felt like was kind of like damaged goods that Triple H couldn't really fix. So the fact they're moving on her doesn't surprise me. But again, like they sent her back to NXT, then let her contract expire. That again has me a little concerning. Because is that going to be for everyone who goes back to NXT? They're only doing that just to see what they can get out of them before their contracts run out. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, though. But there was that one. Who's next? I think we can get to the even bigger names now. The biggest name from NXT, and I was kind of surprised about this one, Cora Jade. That one really sucked to hear. She's definitely someone that I have definitely been interested in seeing what she'll be like when she gets to the main roster. We all know she is the big CM Punk fangirl. There was videos, of course, when she first met Punk, when she also asked Punk a question during a Q&A when he was in UFC and whatnot, and how Punk, has definitely gone out of his way to be a supporter for her since he's come back last year, which I think has been a class act on Punk for sure. I did not expect them to release Cora. I mean, I thought it was a little weird that they did put her and Roxanne back together, and all of a sudden they have Roxanne and Julia being an alliance. I don't quite know what the case is here, but my opinion about Cora Jade, I think the reason why they released her, even though there's reports about salaries and age and how some people weren't working hard in training, because there was that post by Wrestle Talk, and both Gigi Dolin and Cora Jade commented on the post and basically said they worked with the resource they were given. Cora Jade said apparently that she was body shamed by her bosses and her co-workers, which is why she had to find her own gym to work out in. And not just that, Cora, I didn't notice either too. I knew she was 20 years old when she signed with WWE. I knew she was very, very, very young. But Cora Jade dropped out of high school when she was 15 years old to be a wrestler. That is a ballsy move there. I can't tell you one parent I know that would let their kid drop out of school, especially at 15 years old. So she took a risk. And I think she made a good name for herself. And heck, the reason why I'm surprised they released her was there was one time where people were calling her the next Sasha Banks on the main roster. I guess with her character or whatnot, whatever heck it was, the residential mean girl or something like that. But yeah, because with Punk being there especially too, I thought that's someone he would really vouch for sure. But personally, if I'm being honest, I think the thing that led to them releasing her is I think she kind of ended up being in the same boat as what Hideo Itami was in when he got his release. Hideo Itami, as you remember, 10 years ago, he was supposed to get the world title reign that Finn Balor got the first time in NXT. And I think there were plans for Cora Jade to win the women's title when she came back last year, but then she got injured again. And the injuries, I think, is what caught up to her. I feel like at one point, Cora Jade was definitely a top prospect in NXT. But I think with her injuries and the bringing in all these other talents, I feel like that kind of pushed her back on the back burner and put her behind. I think of any of these talents, she's one that could most likely come back to WWE at some point. Again, she's 24, 25. She's still young. I think, though, she would really benefit by going to TNA. Really, I don't think really any of these talents that got released should go to AEW. I don't see any of them succeeding in AEW right now. I would go to TNA. Especially, if your mindset is to come back someday. I think a lot of people, including myself, does see Cora Jade eventually coming back to WWE someday. Again, she is young. If anybody can pull it off, I think she can. But since WWE has that partnership with TNA, I feel like, especially, I think she also is one of the NXT stars, but has been making a lot of appearances to TNA since this partnership was announced. I do think that she should go to TNA to still kind of stay on the buzz and just show the improvements, show the reliability. So, yes, I do think she's one that will eventually come back. But I'm still shocked they released her for sure. But yeah, so she's gone. But that's all the NXT ones. On the main roster, I think the very first one that was announced was Kayden Carter and Katana Chance. That one surprised me. Because, so, I agree, as single stars, again, I love both of them women. I was very impressed by both of them in the Mae Young Classic when they were both in it. But I do feel like there was never any intention for them to be main roster stars. But as a tag team, I think they had something there as a tag team. Like, we're saying we don't have legitimate tag teams on the main roster. That's a legitimate tag team right there. So the fact that they had that, I would have kept them. Because that's a team I feel like you could have built the division around. But nope, they released them. So yes, that one shocked me. I didn't expect that. Like I said, if they were single stars, maybe not as much of a shock. But the fact that they released them and they legitimately do need actual women's tag teams, that's a legitimate team that works. They're best friends in real life. They have a great gimmick. They're great in-ring talent. Maybe also I could have seen them being like an Oni Lorcan and a Danny Burch where, like, you know, they basically need each other to be relevant. Maybe that, but still, they're a legitimate tag team. If there's any team that could have carried their tag team division, it's definitely them. So that one definitely surprised me for sure. How do I go with these last three here? Shayna Baszler. So, Shayna Baszler had apparently signed a new deal with WWE last year. And she mentioned that, you know, I guess she was helping out in NXT. And I think she did express interest that when her in-ring career is done, she was interested in being a trainer. That alone, you would think she would have stayed. But before I heard about that, I did kind of feel the writing was on the wall for Shayna. Especially when they released Sonya. Right after Rumble. That one shot... Well, okay, Sonya's was her contract expired. I did feel like the days were numbered for the rest of the PFC when that happened. Like, I'm actually a little surprised they didn't release Zoe. Maybe they won't release Zoe. Maybe they'll push her to single star again, because I do think Zoe's talented. But I wouldn't be surprised if Zoe gets released at some point also. I hope that doesn't happen. But it could. But remember when I mentioned that I feel like there's some people that were just damaged goods and Triple H just couldn't fix them? I felt like Shayna Baszler personally was one of them. Like, they gave her a world title match for her first WrestleMania. And they even had her dominate the Women's Royal Rumble. I mean, not Rumble. Well, she kind of did, because her first Rumble, she had 8 eliminations. She should have won the 2020 Rumble, but instead they gave it to Charlotte and had Shayna win the Chamber, which that was a weirdly booked match and whatnot. And then they had her lose to Becky Lynch. And Becky's even come out and said she wanted to put over Shayna. But I guess there was a match on Raw with her and Kyrie that kind of made Vince go, nah, no thanks, not for me. And that's why Shayna lost. Of course, how many times later did Shayna lose by having that stupid roll-up pin that was only always on her, and it drove me crazy. But I've mentioned this before, and I'm going to be mentioning it again whenever I do my best and worst matches from 2022. When Triple H took over, the one thing I knew for sure that he was going to have a problem with was booking the SmackDown women's division, because that's when they put the belt on Liv Morgan. And as much of a fan of Liv Morgan's, you know, I did think Liv had a potential for sure. She was not ready to be a world champion at the time, but I don't think Triple H wanted her to have like an absolute abysmal like paper championship reign, which is why that's when they were kind of booked in the corner with, because they had Shayna get that world title shot at Clash at the Castle with Liv, and if I was Triple H, I would have put the title back on Shayna then, but they didn't. And I feel like that she still got stuck in her rut. Like, she never got out of that hole. She was reduced to a tag team specialist. She was also terrified of Lily, Alexa Bliss's doll. And yeah, like I feel like that's one that Triple H just wasn't able to fix. I could maybe see her giving AEW a shot. Maybe. But I feel like out of all the ones that were released, that's probably the only one I would think may be able to make it work in AEW. But with her release also, that does mean the end of any chances at all of there being a 4 horsewoman match in WWE. We never got it. We unfortunately never got it. But that's a shame. The last two, I know one is really the one I think that a lot of people are pissed off about the most is Dakota Kai. And I agree too. This is one person that Triple H immediately brought back when he took over and put her in Damage Control. And I also was surprised about this because they were recently pushing her and giving her a lot of matches on Raw, and she was killing it. She was absolutely killing it. And I also thought she would... I still think too, and again, this is nothing against Lyra, I thought they should have given Dakota Kai the women's Intercontinental title. So the fact that they were kind of finally giving her that push, and they all of a sudden like pulled the plug on it, I was shocked. That kind of shocked me for sure. They did that, and then they immediately pulled the plug on her and released her. So that's a bummer for sure. So, but I also do agree that Dakota Kai definitely is a very underutilized and underrated talent. Her selling is great. She's a great storyteller. Like, heck, I was pushing for years, and I still was pushing for it, because she never got her full comeuppance on Shayna Baszler. That simple story from when Shayna had her debuting match in NXT, and they gave, like, Dakota Kai that story of, like, that PTSD from Shayna Baszler. I wanted, until Dakota turned heel, of course, I wanted her to be the one to dethrone Shayna Baszler of her women's championship reign in NXT. And I still had hoped for they would give her that on the main roster at some point. And I thought maybe we were finally going in that direction with her as well, with the way they were booking her recently with the women's IC title tournament. But yeah, they pulled the plug on her. I was surprised by that. I don't know, because I even heard rumors a few months ago that they were considering releasing her. But I felt like them giving the women's Intercontinental title opportunity was like one last shot. And yes, I get it. She's also injury prone too. That may have led to, the release as well too. But you can't deny when she is healthy, Dakota Kai is definitely one of the most underrated talent on that roster. And apparently she already has a lot of interest, but I would still say she should go to TNA as well. I'd like to see her in TNA also, personally. Like, definitely her and Cora should go to TNA. The last one to talk about, though, is the one that bothers me the most. Braun Strowman. When I said earlier, there's one of them that I don't think ever should go back to WWE unless they say pen and paper they're going to commit to him to his fullest potential. That's Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman is, let me see how old he is. Hold on. Braun Strowman. How old is he? He's only 41? I thought he was like 45, but okay, he's 41 years old. I look back at Braun Strowman's run WWE, and I continuously will say Braun was a good soldier. But I will also phrase this. WWE never wanted to put Braun Strowman on top. Mainly the first time around, of course, was because of Roman Reigns. But Braun Strowman, and it still bothered me so much when I recently, because I've watched it multiple times, the 24 documentary on WrestleMania 36. when Braun Strowman told he was one person who kind of got a spotlight on this and told his story about him getting to the world title and his history and whatnot, growing up in this and that. It bothers me that he felt like he had got to the top and he finally proved to the company he deserves to be in a spot. But the reality is, WWE never gave Strowman his flowers, like the Universal title, because they wanted him to have that spot. They gave it to him when they needed him to be in that spot. And that's a shame, because Braun Strowman is a WWE project. No other indie experiences. He became who he was because of the WWE. And he got over in 2016 and 2017 when they made him a single star. 2017 was the year Braun Strowman should have been world champion. He should have been the one to dethrone Brock Lesnar. And they didn't do it. Heck, it was one thing to not do it in 2017, but it was another thing to not do it when Roman Reigns had to vacate the title in 2018. And instead of giving it to Braun right there as they should have, they gave it to Brock. They gave it back to Brock. That pissed me off so much. And then after that, it was nothing but consolation prize after consolation prize after consolation prize after consolation prize. They gave him the IC title. He lost it in a 3-on-1 handicap match. He eliminated everyone in the Elimination Chamber in 2018 except Roman Reigns. What's his reward? He gets a run with the tag titles with a 10-year-old kid for one night. He won the tag titles at WrestleMania with a 10-year-old kid. Yes, as Robbie said before, he went from the monster among men to the babysitter among men. That happened there. What else happened? Like I said, they gave him the world title when Roman Reigns backed out of WrestleMania 36 for good reasons. But had Roman never backed out, they would have never given Braun the title. And the moment Roman came back, gave it right back to him. And booked him in a horrible feud with Shane McMahon for WrestleMania 37. And then gave him a world title match at Backlash. And then they released him the first time. Oh, and don't forget also, he won the Honor Giant Memorial Battle Royale at WrestleMania 35 while feuding with two Saturday Night Live guys that nobody cared about. Yes. So when they brought him back, I'm like, okay, let's see how it goes. Because at first I'm like, not too sure about him bringing him back, but we'll see where it goes. They didn't floor the gas pedal with Braun Strowman. They kept him in the mid-cards. I respect that they did that. They took it easy, but they took it too easy. Because he basically ended up being another Big Show. He didn't come back to win championships. He came back basically to put over other talents. And he did a great job with putting over guys like Bronson Reed and recently Jacob Fatu as well. But it was kind of like, okay, but when's Braun going to get his chance? Like, that's why when I did my Elimination Chamber card predictions, I put him in the chamber. Because I'm like, give him a shot in the main event scene again. You haven't done that since they brought him back. And then they released him. So it's like, and this too, I forgot to mention this. Remember back in 2019 it was, where him himself even made some comments on Twitter about indies wrestlers, basically kind of being a corporate guy, basically, like how Seth Rollins was in 2019 as well, when he was saying stuff on Twitter that was kind of giving him heat as well too. Braun Strowman was a WWE company guy, sticking up for the company on Twitter, and they still released him. That's one person that they've really BS'd with. That's why I'm saying, if Braun Strowman, which where he's going to go next, I don't know. TNA maybe, I don't know. I don't think he should go to AEW. I know Tony wasn't interested in him the first time around, but I don't think he should go to AEW. Maybe Maple Leaf Wrestling, maybe MLW, Major League Wrestling, if that even still exists. I don't know where he should go. But if WWE ever calls him again to come back, I don't want him coming back unless they're going to actually give him the proper push, the proper main event run he should have had in 2017. Because this is ridiculous. They have booked Braun Strowman to his... They put him in spots when they needed him there. Not when they wanted him there, when they needed him there. And that's one name I'm going to forever shame WWE for. Because they had something, a household name, a company guy, somebody they created. He got over, and yet they didn't capitalize on the right time. But used him when they had nobody else. That is total BS. I'm sorry, guys. It is total BS. Is my stream lagging like crazy? I want to pull it up on my phone real quick because I just noticed it's been lagging. If that's the case, I do apologize. But then I'm going to get to the live chat and I'm going to get out of here because I've definitely talked for a while on this, and oh, I seem okay when I look at my phone, so not going to worry about it. But yeah, of all the releases, that one definitely pissed me off the most was Braun's. Because they've really, again, it was like, okay, he's doing a good job putting over talent, but when's he going to get his shot? But, because he did also he actually had one of Omos's best matches at Crown Jewel in 2022, which he won the match. Braun did, thank goodness. I know he had a good match with Gunther as well, and Gunther was IC champion, but yeah, I agree. Braun Strowman is one person WWE has really done dirty with. So like I said, I don't think Braun should ever come back. I don't see him coming back, to be honest. But if they ever call him and try to bring him back, like I said, they better tell him that this time they are going to commit to him and give him the main event run he should have had in 2017. So, I wish all of them the best. I never want to see anybody lose their jobs. And again, some could come back, some may not. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, guys, that's my thoughts on SmackDown and my thoughts on the what's it called? That's my thoughts on the releases as well. Let's check the live chat before we go off the air, and then I'm going to get out of here. I think we were here with Robbie's comment about what do you think will be the plan for Andrade and Santos given their recent interactions backstage involving Los Garza? You think it'll factor in the Worlds Collide with AAA? Personally, yes. I think that should be something that does tie in with AAA. Like I said, I don't know where exactly it is going, but it could form some type of big faction or something like that. Especially if they want to get El Hijo del Vikingo involved in it or whatnot. But yeah, I definitely think it could help for sure. So I do agree with that. Backlash does not look that great at all. Tyler thinks. I think the card looks pretty solid. It's not going to be a pay-per-view of the year, but a nice, gentle, cool-down pay-per-view. But it should be a fun one. Expectations lower, but it should be fun. Robbie said, I think Solo and Jacob interfered because of the scuffle backstage at the start of the beginning of the show between them, Damian Priest, leading into the LA Knight promo. I didn't think of that true. That might be been why that happened, but I still thought it was weird. Chelsea Green's new and morning gimmick was pure gold. Do you think, given her U.S. title loss to Zelina recently and the events of last year, that Chelsea can be a front runner for Miss Money in the Bank this year? Oh, yes. Chelsea Green would make an absolute golden Miss Money in the Bank. I do think she should, her, this year, it should either be her or Naomi who wins Money in the Bank. That's my picks so far for either one of them. But yeah, that could just be them moving her on to bigger and better things. Of course, we're taking the U.S. title off of her, but I feel like there was still a little more mileage with her with the U.S. title, in my opinion. AEW is just falling. I just don't want to say it like I hear about the last pay-per-view last month. Yeah, that was... I'm so glad I didn't watch Dynasty. And I'm still getting heat about that video I made, why I'm glad I didn't watch it. But yeah, as of now, I'm not really interested in Double or Nothing right now. Just saying. Naomi is like Rikishi in late 2000 when he turned heel. Hopefully it doesn't try to be for her. But I do think, hope she gets a run with the women's title with this heel run. Unfortunately, Bianca broke some fingers in WrestleMania. Hope she'll still turn heel when she returns to SmackDown. And again, that kind of is interesting, having Bianca off TV for a bit. They're kind of leaving the suspense in there. Because they could really jump deeper into that when she comes back. Makes a surprise return and turns heel. Maybe by SummerSlam, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, so that is going to be interesting for sure to see that happen. When she comes back. Given their reaction on SmackDown Friday night, do you think an Aleister Black Carmelo Hayes feud could ultimately help elevate Carmelo the way Velveteen Dream was at War Games 2017? Maybe? I don't have as much faith, though. I mean, it could, but because Melo's already been on the main roster for a year, they already kind of set the bar high for him whenever he was a number one draft, like a first round draft pick in last year's draft. I don't know if it would be as... I feel like they could pull that off like they did with Aleister Black and Velveteen Dream. But I feel like because Melo's already had the exposure, maybe a little more challenging. So that's why, that could work. But also, if it's not going to work, maybe wait for a little bit on that match. But maybe, you never know. They could prove me wrong. We'll see. WWE should not made women's mid-card and tag titles. I kind of agree with that, yes. It just feels like it's getting... The title scene is getting too much. It's worked for Chelsea Green. But that's the only one I feel like these additional women's titles have worked for. Again, Lyra right now, I think she's great, but she's really not really... Again, character-wise, she's still struggling. And the women's tag titles, yes, have always been all over the place. So, I do agree with that, yes. Rob says the last time he remembers Gallus doing anything on TV was their brief feud with Joe Hendry in NXT. They feud with Joe Hendry as well? I don't remember that one. Well, I don't watch NXT all the time or not, but because wasn't Joe Coffey in one of the Triple Threat North American? Was it the match with Obafemi and Dijak at either Stand and Deliver last year or at Battleground? Was he in that match? I think he was in one of the Triple Threat matches involving Obafemi. But yeah, I don't remember what they did besides that as well. Sucks to lose Braun again, but it's not like 2021. But man, it sucks, man. I agree. Don't forget about that awful MMA match at SummerSlam 2023. Oh yeah, the MMA rules match with Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey. That, spoiler alert, again, because I still am going strong with my best and worst match just from every year I've been a wrestling fan videos. I've still, they're still long ways away, but still working on them. But that is on my list for 2023. I believe if I could give a spoiler on my worst matches for 2023, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that is my number 3. My number 3 worst match of 2023 was Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler in that MMA rules match. Yeah. Sometimes, sometimes, boxing and WWE just don't mix together, in my opinion. So that failed big time, unfortunately. Braun should have beaten Brock at No Mercy 2017, yes. And Money in the Bank needs to go. WWE makes look like crap. I don't want Money in the Bank to go. Yes, they've had some weird bookings with it over the past 10 years, but I don't want to let go of Money in the Bank yet. I have heard rumors, though, they may not do a War Games match this year. Which, honestly, that I'm okay with. It doesn't have to be every single year. It doesn't have to be like what Hell in a Cell was. You don't have to have a Hell in a Cell event to have a Hell in a Cell match. But yeah, I don't think Money in the Bank should go. But I am going to get off now because I am told, and it's 10:30 here, but dinner's only ready now. I'm going to get off now. I am going to upload, before I go to bed, the next 24 review, which again was on Rumble 2022. Not the best one, but I'm going to give that an immediate premiere and then just roll with it. This coming up week, Backlash preview and a Backlash review, of course. Not going to do any live reactions from Backlash. None matches that really made me want to do live reactions. But that, and just probably a few other random odds that's going to upload this week, so just stay tuned as always. So yeah, guys, that's going to do it for this long stream. I talked longer than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be like a 40-minute stream, but I ended up talking for over an hour, so worked well in my opinion. And I thought it was a good stream. Also, I did realize I hit 2,250 subscribers as well, too, so that's a good pat on my back as well. Again, my next goal is 2,500. And then after that, I think I'm going to go full speed ahead as my next goal being 5,000. After that would be my next ultimate goal that I do honor after I get to 2,500. So yeah, I'm going to check out again. Thank you for Tyler and Rob for joining me in the live chat as always, guys. Stay tuned for more content coming to the channel as always, guys. Make sure you again slap a like on the video. Leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. Also about SmackDown, releases, Backlash, whatever you want to talk about. Leave your guys again thoughts down in the comment section below. Slap a like on the video and subscribe for more content on my channel. Follow me on Twitter as well, TheCloudman93. Also follow me on TikTok and Instagram, TheCloudman1993. Since I am off this week also, I'm off Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday this week, maybe one of those nights I'll come up here, I'll come down here, and maybe I'll do another video game live stream. I think the next one should be a Mario Kart one. Maybe I'll do that one next. We'll see. If I have time, I'll try that this week. But I did promise my wife I'd help her with the flower beds. So that's the main project while I'm off. So yeah, I'll check it out, guys. Catch you guys later. Again, do check out the next 24 review when I get it uploaded tonight. And I will catch y'all later. Have a great rest of your night. Have a great start to your week. And do not forget, in order to be superior to the man, you've got to be the man. And for I am the man himself. And that is not just an opinion, my friends. That is a fact of life. Yeah!